massive fleet of Zentraedi Supreme Commander Lord Dolza had attempted to wipe out all of the Micronian species, its culture, and the very planet it spawned from. Yet some areas of the planet, those with smaller populations of humans, were spared the worst of the attack from space that had rained down death upon the Earth. The Amazon rainforest was once such place, and in fact, with far less impact of mankind meddling with its ecosystem, the forest had robustly reclaimed a great portion of territory, even growing over the remains of a Zentraedi destroyer, a gunship equal to the size of the SDF-1 and already covered in life of all kinds. The ship infiltrated the rainforest like a predator, tearing its way into the nest of its prey. Inside the gunship, gigantic Zentraedi warriors toiled in hellish conditions, using engineering and repair training they'd received from the Micronians, before defecting back into the waiting arms of KHYRON. Even the Backstabber was sweating it out, working alongside his men as auxiliary power is restored to the ship, pleasing KHYRON. But as he checked with his team working on the ship's engines, he's informed that several parts and a power generator to fuel them would be needed before the ship could lift off, let alone be spaceworthy. This was expected, and KHYRON and Grell had already prepared a plan of where and how to steal a newly furbished reflex engine from the Micronians' main industrial warehouse district. KHYRON had decided that the time was now, and made a ship-wide announcement to his crew to prepare for this raid and for battle.
The events of this day will burn forever in the minds of the Micronians. They will know how KHYRON the Destroyer was able to crush them with their own protoculture. All will bow to KHYRON.
Around the Micronian civilization, it was Christmas time. The spirit of the holidays was alive and well all throughout New Macross City and its surrounding townships, with people coming together in kindness, cheer, and merriment. High above the city, the Skull Squadron was finishing its patrol, glad that there was nothing to report today. As Rick sends out his final instructions to his wingmen, you can tell he was mentally doing his job on autopilot, as his current thoughts were actually on Lisa at the moment. He still felt terrible how everything went before, and knew he'd screwed it up. Even though he'd never meant to hurt his budding relationship with her, he had only been trying to help an old friend in trouble. Rick knew if he could just talk to Lisa and explain everything, surely she would understand.
Roger, Captain.
Maybe if I ask Lisa out for some coffee, she'll agree to see me. After all, she can't stay mad at me forever. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Skull One, calling Captain Hayes. Huh? Sammy, where's Captain Hayes?
She's not on duty, Captain. I think she went home.
She usually works this shift.
I don't know what happened, but she didn't come in.
I see. Well, it's all clear in the eastern sector. We'll be returning to base now.
Rick was just kind of glad that Sammy didn't seem to know what had happened between he and Lisa, or else he would have seen some mischievous glint in her eye. But it seemed Lisa was avoiding him. He was pretty sure.
She's sure going out of her way to avoid me.
Far below the incoming Veritex, we find a couple of warehouse workers taking inventory of some of the more recent pieces of equipment being stockpiled, newly received from the ROBOTECH factory in space, while they confirm the possession of a reflex power converter. We find that Rick has landed. As he makes his way into the base, he is constantly reminded of Lisa by every little thing around him.
Last time it snowed, Lisa and I were in the park together.
While the snow falls and Christmas time carries on, a certain trio of former Zentraedi spies are trying their hand at the retail end of the season, and things could be going better.
Here you are.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye now. And send your friends. Well, how we doing now, Bron?
Not very well. We've only sold 2 of them so far.
But I heard these toys were as easy as pie to sell at Christmas time.
Step right up. Buy now before they're gone. Maybe it's our location?
That could be. Why don't we try that other mall? There are lots of kids over
Let's
there.
go to the mall.
Yeah, the mall couldn't be any worse than this.
While they wrestle with their own entrepreneurial endeavors, MINMEI sits alone in a park, not far away. It's almost like she was looking back on her whole life from the beginning, as she sat in a child's swing trying to figure out where everything went wrong and how to make it right. Since Kyle had basically disappeared, she found herself extremely isolated. Her friends in the entertainment industry were more Kyle's friends than her own. Her parents had been killed the day the Zentraedi leveled the earth. Even her remaining family, Aunt Lena and Uncle Max, were Kyle's parents. She was truly trying to get away from anything that had to do with him. And she hated to rely on Max and Lena when they'd already done so much for her in her life. But more than that, she felt a need to find herself, to figure out not only who she really was, but who she wanted to be going forward. She didn't want to sing anymore. That dream had become more of a nightmare. She'd had other dreams, though. Other hopes for her life.
Sometimes you can't be happy unless you do what you dream about.
So are you sure that being an entertainer is what you want from life?
Yes, I guess. But I really want to be a bride.
You mean married? Well, I guess you'll probably make somebody a wonderful wife.
Thank you, Rick.
Remembering those other dreams made her think of Rick, of course, and that time they had their own private wedding. The time she asked him to kiss her. She wondered what would have happened if they had never been rescued, if she hadn't won that competition, if she hadn't let Kyle into her life. What was Rick doing now? She couldn't possibly impose on him after all he'd done for her already. Could she? As she considers this, Rico, Conda, and Braun were moving shop, hoping to find a better location with more kids to sell toys to, when Rico spots a kid hanging out at the park. It takes Braun only an extra moment to realize that's no kid, that's MINMEI. Wow, how cool to run into her here. But as they call out to her, she throws on her incognito glasses as she books it, running away. They don't exactly take it personally, but do seem concerned at her hasty exit and apparent desire to be alone. As the snow continues to fall, we see at the base housing Rick making some tea and watching the news. He hears MINMEI's name mentioned and that she'd been reported as having taken ill, but is now considered to be officially missing. It had been a few days since the incident in Monument City when he'd last seen her, and considering the state she was in then, he wasn't surprised she'd canceled performances. But he had a foreboding feeling about his friend if she'd suddenly disappeared off the face of the earth, especially when the news mentions Kyle's disappearance as well. At that moment, the doorbell rings, and Rick thinks it's maybe Lisa. He actually hopes it is, hoping that maybe she's not mad at him anymore and wants to talk. But finding MINMEI on his front doorstep was one of the last things he'd expected.
Could that be Lisa? Nah, she's still mad at me. Huh? MINMEI?
Hello, Rick.
Hello, MINMEI.
May I come in?
Sure, why not?
I probably should have called you first. I'm sorry, Rick. I don't want to impose.
My friends don't have to call. Hey, what's wrong? Why don't you go inside where it's warm? Huh? Don't worry. It's okay.
I really like Rick's demeanor here, simply being accepting, comforting, and supportive of his dear friend, who he sees is in great pain. It's clear from her own posture that MINMEI was hesitant to go to him, but he's immediately helpful. Whereas I think there's a lot of guys out there who might seize this opportunity with a vulnerable woman, especially one they'd been romantically interested in. But Rick is purely in friend mode with MINMEI, much as he'd meant to be when he'd gone to see her the other day. He cares about her well-being, and the genuine warmth of that, the authenticity of that kindness, is something that MINMEI has clearly been deprived of for a long time. As soon as she feels it, it pushes her over the edge to tears, and Rick simply tells her, "Don't worry, it's okay." He had been hoping it was Lisa, though, stopping by, but she had apparently been busy out with Claudia, taking in a show together. During their evening, it seemed Claudia had talked Lisa into giving Rick another chance and allow him to make up for leaving her hanging that day. After all, he had shown up, and it was her that stormed off. Lisa got in a taxi, and Claudia asked her to say hi to Rick for her, before silently wishing things could finally work out for those two. Rick had made MINMEI comfortable while he shared his tea with her, mentioning how he'd been worried and wondering if she was feeling better now. She was, maybe almost too comfortable. She begins thinking out loud, complaining about her life, how she has no freedom, being constantly fussed over and controlled. It was making her so negative, she began looking at all she'd lost, instead of being grateful for all she had. Rick listens to what she has to say, but is pretty brutally honest, as any good friend should be, as he plays devil's advocate to her problems in life.
Everyone feels bad once in a while, but you're a great talent, and that's something most people would love to have going for them. It sounds a little more like self-pity if you ask me, MINMEI. You should be happy because of your music.
Well, if that's all I've got, then I don't want to sing anymore.
Rick could see there was more that MINMEI wasn't telling him, and finally asks her if Kyle had finally ended, well, everything. She basically denies it and confirms it all in the same breath. As Rick continued to listen, she found herself pouring out all of her frustrations in life, but especially everything to do with Kyle, and how much she hated him now, and all the reasons why. While she did, the taxi with Lisa arrives, and she walks through the snow to Rick's door, smiling, excited to put all of this MINMEI business behind them and move forward. She finds it a little weird that Rick's door was cracked open, but goes to ring the bell regardless, instead of letting herself in. Before she presses the ringer, she hears the raised and unmistakable voice of the last person in the world she'd hoped was here right now.
It got so bad I couldn't even talk to him about what I was feeling. I have nobody who understands, who will
But
take
that's
the time to
MINMEI.
listen. None of my friends in the entertainment industry really know who I am. It's terrible. You see, Rick, I know you care. That's why I came. Please let me stay.
Oh man, you can see it in Rick's eye, how torn he is at this request. How much he wants to be there for MINMEI and help her through this crisis. But he truly wanted to set things right with Lisa, and intended to explore that relationship if she was still willing to. And the biggest obstacle in the universe that could prevent that from ever happening was MINMEI. Yet, how could he turn her away when she was going through the worst time of her life? Lisa could hear everything, had heard MINMEI begging to stay with Rick and prayed that he'd somehow turn her down.
And I don't know who else to turn to. Oh, please, Rick, please.
Well, I guess it's all right. If you're sure you really want to.
I can't believe this is happening.
Okay.
Hey, what's the matter, lady? Are you feeling all right or what?
Nothing. Just go away and leave me alone.
Some people.
Sure we could.
Do you really mean it?
I know. I'll have a toast in honor of Roy. And I know just the place he'd like me to do it.
Hi, Commander. Your usual?
Thanks, John. Tonight I think I'll have something stronger.
Sure thing. Something a little stronger coming right up.
I think you've had enough,
Here
especially
you
if
are.
you're driving.
Huh? What's she doing here? But
This is my big day. This
Lisa.
Seeing Lisa sitting alone at the bar with the bottle nearby as she quietly sings MINMEI's songs to herself is one of the most soul-crushing things I have ever seen. Even as a kid, I was devastated watching this. As Lisa drowns her sorrows after losing Rick to MINMEI once more, MINMEI wakes from what is undoubtedly the most peaceful sleep she'd had in some time. She's disoriented, taking a moment to recognize where she is exactly, but already the many troubles she'd been feeling now seem much more clear to her. She owed all that to Rick's kindness and listening ear, and goes to find him, sleeping out on the couch like a gentleman after giving his bedroom to her.
Rick is right. I was feeling sorry for myself. Huh? Aw. He looks so uncomfortable sleeping on the sofa. I hope he's warm enough. I'll just fix his blanket for him. Thank you, Rick. Good night.
It's a tender moment all around and helps illustrate that, for all his flaws, Rick really is a good dude deep down inside. MINMEI sure sees this, and even as she feels the regrets of her life and how she'd pushed Rick aside before, it was hard not to feel a new well of love for him springing forth within. On Christmas morning, most of New Macross City was waking up with family and excitement and reasons to celebrate. But for Lisa, it was another day of work. That's all she had left, really. I do love this shot of her Jeep approaching the SDF-1 on the bridge, as you just see how massive the Prometheus carrier alone is, stuck at this awkward angle, attached to the broken battle fortress. Lisa was still wondering what to do about Rick and MINMEI, if she should do anything at all, or just let her have him. Between those sorrows and the fact that she was clearly hungover, even her own driver offers to radio the base and tell them she isn't feeling well and he's taking her home. She denies his offer, anxious to get on with her duties and keep her mind off of this nonsense. The girls at the base were planning a Christmas party, but noticed Lisa may not be in the partying mood. Sammy wondered if maybe things had gone south with Captain Hunter, and Kim wonders if maybe it's time they mind their own business. But Sammy shows her exactly what she thinks of that. Far out in the industrial area, some poor schmo is taking a smoke break, glad that even if he's working on Christmas, it's still a decent job with good pay and easy hours. It makes sense why, as he finds out firsthand what a high-value target zone this sector was for an enemy attack. As the pods move into position, he does try in futility to call out a warning, which is only answered by the laser fire spelling his demise. Lisa considers the Christmas party the girls are throwing together, as Vanessa tells her it's just a small get-together with the old bridge crew and some guests.
Why don't you invite Rick? I'm sure he'd love to come with you.
I don't think he'll be able to make it.
Today's supposed to be his day off.
He's at home with a miserable cold.
This is ground-based security. Zentraedi forces are attacking the industrial section. Emergency communique for all sectors.
Scramble alert. Repeat, all Veritechs. This is a scramble alert.
Max and MIRIYA prepare to lead their squad into battle as Lisa sends out further orders to all sectors. KHYRON and his troops pile into the industrial section, but KHYRON is quickly getting annoyed by Grell's lack of direction towards their target. The military moves through the busy shopping district of the city, warning all civilians to head toward shelters and evacuate the area immediately. KHYRON and the others have exited their pods to begin the search for their targets, completely unfazed by this first wave of attack from these pathetic Micronian fighters.
These Micronians are no match for my power.
While the Zentraedi continue their search all around the industrial district, Admiral Gloval and Exodor notice they appear to be looking for something. They further extrapolate that, considering where their attack is concentrated, they're clearly looking for the type of equipment they might use to repair a battle cruiser. Therefore, Gloval tells Lisa to inform the flight groups to defend those areas in particular. Lisa carries out the order as Max and MIRIYA race there with their squadron. However, an entire battalion of Quadrano power armor led by Azonia lie in ambush. They tear their way through the Veritechs with their initial attack, but MIRIYA knows exactly how dangerous these Quadranos are and exactly how to deal with them. Max kicks into high gear as well, even as their squadron around them struggle with the nimble power armor. In the middle of the fight, MIRIYA seems to recognize the piloting of her former commander, Azonia, as Azonia does the same, noticing MIRIYA even in all this chaos. It seems to me they are having a hard time at the thought of killing each other, which complicates the fight all the more. While the civilians take shelter in churches, shops, and anywhere they can find cover, the news broadcasts a bulletin on the attack, and Rick is surprised and angry that this is the first he's hearing about it. Why wasn't he called into action against such an assault? Though he was pretty sure he knew why. He couldn't just sit idly by, knowing Max and MIRIYA and the rest were putting their lives on the line. MINMEI used to encourage him to be a soldier, to fly, knowing he was the best and couldn't lose to anyone. But now, she could hardly bear the thought of him going into battle, and begs him to at least be careful. Rick is a little shocked and maybe even a little annoyed at how dependent and possessive she comes across in this, but he promises he'll be safe all the same. He gears up, launching Skull One into the sky, and heads in to help. KHYRON finally uncovers his target, the reflex power converter he needs for his gunship. We see just how strong a Zentraedi is as KHYRON shoulders the entire converter, an impressive feat even as he shows strain. He calls for cover fire as he prepares their retreat. Closer to the SDF-1, away from the battle, MINMEI busies herself shopping, but overhears the news on the shop radio talking about the intense casualties of the ongoing battle. MINMEI has truthfully been through a fair amount of action herself. She has experienced more than her share of trauma in war. Hearing of the intensity of the battle raging not so far away, knowing Rick is there, she's struck with anxiety, dropping the pineapple in her hand. Its crash on the ground like the explosion of a bomb to her. She makes a hasty exit with the rest of her goods and rushes back to the safety of Rick's home. KHYRON prepares his escape with his new acquisition as the rest of the battle pods scatter. Rick orders Max and the rest that they need to block their escape routes and end KHYRON for good. MIRIYA finishes her duel with Azonia, watching as she escapes, possibly letting her, as Max arrives and passes on Rick's order to assist and cover him. And none too soon, as a Cyclops shuttle pod begins descending from the sky right near KHYRON. He and many other pods board the ship as it prepares to flee, while Max and MIRIYA race to help Rick stop it. Rick's gun pod alone isn't quite enough to stop the ship's ascent, even as a terrifying broadcast from KHYRON echoes across the land. His own twisted joke on Micronian culture and their traditions.
Attention, Micronians! This is KHYRON the Destroyer. I want to wish all the people of Earth a Merry Christmas, and I send you a special greeting from Santa Claus. May all your foolish holidays be as bright as this one.
KHYRON was now resorting to suicide bombers. As these Santas detonate, the explosions cause massive damage down among the civilians. As much as Rick wants to pursue KHYRON, he knows their first duty is to protect the people. He orders Max and MIRIYA to cease their pursuit and head to the city to help. Though he knows it's the right thing to do, Max is unsettled at having to let KHYRON get away with this. Infernos rage all around the city as Veritechs return equipped with fire-retardant missiles, trying to fight the blaze. As the fire gets under control, the pilots work tirelessly to rescue people. And I love this shot of MIRIYA gently carrying children huddled in her Battloid's hands as she tries to reunite them with their family, showing so much concern for them, having recently become a mother herself. The damage to this section of the town is catastrophic. The hospital's full, as servicemen and emergency workers work tirelessly to save people after this horrific attack. These images on the news only grow MINMEI's concern for Rick until she can't bear to watch anymore. Yet, even in this catastrophe, the people of Earth, human and Zentraedi alike, band together in places of shelter and worship, remembering what Christmas is all about, grateful to still have each other and be alive. MINMEI found herself turning to her own faith, praying that Rick was okay. Rick had returned to base unharmed, needing time to file his reports, and whether he ran into Lisa or asked to meet her there near the Prometheus, we aren't told. He confronts her for not calling him into action, hearing from Vanessa that Lisa said he was sick. He wondered, why would she lie? Lisa wondered that herself for a moment and didn't really know exactly how to answer, except to remind him that for his own security, he really should remember to close his front door completely. And just in case he didn't catch the drift, she straight up tells him she knows all about MINMEI staying with him. Rick wasn't ashamed exactly, but just felt like they were hiding things from each other. And maybe that was the problem they'd always had with one another. Hiding things, holding back their feelings, cloaking them under the decorum of their service together. Rick offered no explanation about MINMEI. Maybe there was nothing to say to each other after all, in the end. In other circumstances, this would have been a truly romantic moment, as the SDF-1 lights up in the spirit of the holidays, looking truly remarkable. Its very visage spreading cheer and hope as it's enjoyed by Rico, Conda, and Braun, who seem to have met up with Vanessa, Kim, and Sammy as their guests to the Bridge Christmas party. Max and MIRIYA also enjoyed the sight of the incredible space fortress that had saved mankind. But no one enjoyed it as much as baby Dana, much to Max's chagrin. MINMEI had continued to pray, and finally, her prayers were answered as the front door opened, and in came Rick, home safe and sound as promised.
What's the matter?
I'm sorry.
Hey, I told you I'd come back.
I can't help it. I'll be right back. I'm going to wash my face. I must look awful.
Rick is stunned at the impressive and lovely-looking dinner MINMEI had made them on this night. A night that would have already been special considering the occasion. But it seemed MINMEI intended to create one of the most memorable evenings both of them had ever had. Rick had been hesitant to allow MINMEI back into his heart, yet it seemed that his path with Lisa had maybe reached a dead end. And with MINMEI reasserting her deep feelings for Rick, he began to wonder once more if maybe it had always been destiny. That he and MINMEI were always meant to be together. As she lights the candle and gently, almost seductively, blows out the match, she wishes Rick a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Rick only wishes they have a million more like it ahead as they stare into each other's eyes. MINMEI can't help it, won't wait any longer. She moves in to show Rick her feelings for him. And even though he waits but a moment, considering what all of this means, he moves forward to meet her, and their lips embrace, their love for each other unbridled at last.
This